Hello guys and welcome to Flying. Today we will have a very special episode because it's the last part of my world tour. And so this will be a normal video with a normal flight, but I will talk about a lot of topics. I will talk about the tour that we are doing now, about the plane, about failures, about future plans for future tours like this. And I also got a new joystick, the VKB Gladiator, so I will also share my experience with it. And with this, I think we can finally start. We have very nice sunshine today, which is strange because it was rainy when I spawned in. So let's just see. Let me go outside and let's prepare everything. So I started this tour in January, so it's almost 9 months now. And we have done 54 legs, I think. I have to check it. So 150 hours. But as I said in the beginning, when I'm doing those very long tours, I'm not sitting the whole time at the computer or like actively flying. Sometimes I'm reading a book. Sometimes I'm reading a Wikipedia about the places that I'm visiting. Or doing some work. So I am not that fanatic to do it like actively, I guess, but sometimes I'm doing it, right? So it depends on the situation and on the day. Okay, so that's a lot of talking. So we have the cowl flaps on. This is fine. I guess I can already tune in the QNH, which is 1021 for today. One final time in this plane. I can show you the map of today's flight. So this is Norway, this is Sweden. Let me maybe zoom in. So we are starting from here. There should be beautiful views, I hope, if the clouds will be playing along. And here is Kiruna, so this mine, I think iron mine, where we have started 8 months ago, when it was minus 23 degrees Celsius, I believe. So very, very cold. We had this cold wave in Europe and it was icing everywhere. And this is also why I was like very happy that this plane had full anti-icing. Okay, beacon light, the battery is already on. Let's just prime this thing. Let's click, tap, tap, tap. So we have the fuel, this is fine. Priming, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, back. Let's make sure we don't have the covers here. No flags visible. So let's just start. And the same with the other one. 2, 3, 4. Did it? Oh, come on, plane. Okay. Now. So 1000 RPM. And we can slowly prepare it for taxi. Let me get the alternators, the avionics, and taxi nav lights. We can get some ventilation, I guess. Let me check. 15-16 degrees Celsius, so we should be fine. Okay, lean for ground operation. Let's check the breakers because they have popped a lot during the flight, and I will also talk about it. When it comes to the airports that we will be visiting, both Kiruna and this one that I don't remember the name of, but I will list it in the description, are custom, but they are free and included in MSFS. Okay, so we have the date already here. Let me just set this up. So we will be cruising at 9,000 feet, and the initial climb will be around here. Although I will be trying to fly by hand because there's a lot of clouds, so I'm not sure. We will see, because there are some great views here along the mountains. So this is slowly warming up so we can do the tests. So let's check the lights. All of them work. It's nice. Let's check the control surfaces. Seem to work. It would be very sad if we would get like an accident on the last flight. Everything works. If it's like your first video with this plane, so I have like a custom combination of the interior and exterior, and there are actually instructions on how to do it, like on my channel. It's very easy as long as you do it with standard liveries from Black Square. Then you can mix and match the interior and exterior very quickly with just one edit in a text file, pretty much, and like some copying. But it gets very complicated if you try to do it with a custom livery, sadly. Okay, let me see. Kind of cold-ish, so we will get the heating. Let me first check the CO detector. It's working. And let's get some heating in and some ventilation. Yeah, nice. And with this, I think we can slowly taxi. The whole short point is pretty much here, so it won't be... Oh yeah, crosswind, love it. Okay. But at least we will be doing the run-up against the wind then. That's fine. So let me just move ahead. It was a pretty challenging landing on this one. I wasn't expecting it because there's like a lot of trees on short final here over the mountain, and somehow I did it, and let's hope that like today's flight will be also nice. As this is a world tour that I'm only doing with radio navigation, we will be using this NDB, so 368. Let me just tune it in. Nice. And let me check what our course will be. 047. So this is 4, this is 5, so 4, 7, 1, 2, 3, kinda here. And okay, and I think we can slowly start. Everything should be fine, no failures visible, and those black square planes, they are not always visible, just when you start using the system, and I will also talk about it in a second. So let me check the temperatures. So we are in the green, and we can start with the warm-up. Full mixture, or with the run-up, I guess. It's getting pretty loud, so let me check if it's not too loud. Actually, I can close the window. Okay, 1700. And now, let's exercise the propeller. Okay, there's also... Yeah, it would be really funny if we would get failure in the last flight, which can happen, because I also got some of them like immediately after each other, and I will also talk about it. Okay, so magnetos. Let's look for the drop. Looks fine. So this is something that I hope will be improved from the commander, like backported from the commander, that there will be a slight difference, because I have done it like 54 times and it was the same drop every time. So not very fun. Looks fine. Okay, so let's prepare to enter the runway then. Strobe lights. And we can also do the check of anti-icing, because there might be some icing. So we are looking for the movement here of the low. So this is a very slight one. Yeah, I can see it. Windshield and prop will be also visible here. Okay, so it seems like the most important anti-icing systems are working, so we can get them on. Okay, and maybe let's get rid of the heating for the takeoff. The rest seems to be fine. I guess we can also get the weather radar. And this is also something that has failed for me. And in general, I feel like I have no luck at all when it comes to the failures. I will just tell you in a second. Because all of them have failed in the worst possible moment, pretty much, during the tour. This checks out. This is closed, this is closed. Seems like everything is fine. Let's go. And now we have clouds. Okay, but as I said in the beginning, only real weather during all of my world tours, like long range tours. So sadly we'll have to suffer through this weather here. Sometimes I'm just like moving the time around to not always fly during the night, for example, like in Asia or somewhere. Yeah, from what I remember coming in here, there was like this loop, so we will probably use it. Okay. Rotation is at 81. So this is something that I got wrong the last time. I have done it like 50 times, and obviously on the one video that I have recorded, I used 60 for some reasons. Oh no, this was such a nice view here. Guys, I really recommend to check this out for your own, and you will be able to see something in your video, because this departure here along this river that we will have, or the lake that we will have here, is really beautiful. Sadly, we'll probably not see it, but I mean the weather is changing so fast that nobody knows. Okay, seems like it's fine. Let me just set up my nice view and get this. No longer a jittery shaking yoke with the new joystick, and I will talk about it in a second. And let's just so a very strong crosswind from what I remember, so aileron and the wind, and we are nicely rotating. Okay, tap the brakes, gear up. Okay, that's much more rain than I have expected. We had such nice sunshine here. Okay, so this is pretty much this lake that I'm using to accelerate. But I mean, you can see how it looks like. We can see nothing pretty much. Still, let me just trim down. There's a lot of up force now with the wind. We can see something, and this is something that I can now do with the joystick, because I have like an additional what is it called? It's not a slider, this trim head, I guess. So now I have 3. I will show them to you in a second, but one of them I'm pretty much using for hand flying instead of using head tracking. I just have those like standard views to look around, and they work pretty nicely. Okay, let's reduce the power to 35.5, I guess, from what I remember. It's not so bad. And now we can slowly turn. So I will talk about the joystick in a second, well, more about it. But I just want to say that after the initial impression, which was really bad, I really learned to like it a lot. Yeah, nice, with those mountain lakes here. I mean, the part that you can see is very nice. And let's just turn to our selected heading. Yeah, this plane really looks much better if you have those ray matched reflections on. In the beginning, when I started my flight, I had them off, and it was like it had this matte color that didn't look like really metal. It didn't look very realistic. But now with the new settings, I really like the surfaces on this one. Okay, so we had some nice views, I guess. We cannot expect too much in Norway. Yeah, and now let's do a steep climb, because there will be some mountains here. Let me just even out. So, at the sum up of the tour, 55 legs, because it was 54 before this one, 150 hours. It's really hard to believe. So the prior tour that I was doing, actually, let me get headphones here, because it's probably too loud for my narration. So the last time that I haven't finished, because I only arrived at the United States, I think, without crossing to Europe last time. This was done with the Milvis Cessna 310. It took me 220 hours, despite it not being like a full circumvention. And this time it was faster, just because this can be much faster if it goes to altitude than the other one. This is like turbocharged, and also has oxygen, which I didn't have in the other one. So yeah, in the beginning I had doubts if having such a powerful plane that can cruise at very high altitudes would be actually good, because I do really enjoy looking at the terrain if I'm doing a world tour. But in the end, it wasn't that much of a problem. It was actually a benefit, because if there was like very interesting stuff, I could always fly low. I mean, most of the time at 6,000 feet, I guess. But if there was kind of parts that were boring, then I could just go to altitude, and then this one can cruise at around 250 knots, which makes it like much faster. So in the end, okay, let me just set up the plane, because it's too much talking. So let's get rid of the lights, of the pumps, and actually we can go here. So autopilot. So maybe this is a good cruise altitude. Yeah, looks fine. Was I planning for 9,000? Yeah, I guess. So let's go to 9,000. I really like this device here. It's like so easy to set up, even during like very complicated procedural approaches with radio navigation only. This is just great. And this is something that I was really missing in the Aerostar, because I was also trying a world tour with the Aerostar, but I kind of cancelled it due to too much icing in Canada. Okay, so it's getting cold, like always lately in my videos, so let's make sure that we will just warm it up nicely. And I also like it in this plane that there's so much that can happen when you use air conditioning and when you use heating. So during using the heating, you can get a CO leak, and during air conditioning, this one can stack, for example, including increasing your drag. It's on and you get a failure. So it's just like great. It's an additional benefit that something original can happen during the flight. Okay, let me set up everything. So are we at 9,000? Kinda. So here we will be also probably changing to standard pressure as we are in Europe. And let me make sure we will have heading mode. And in a second we will try to move to the right course using the NDP. Okay, but I think this is good to know. I was talking too much, which kind of made the NDB-based departure more complicated, but we will see in a second. So the selected course was 47, which is kinda here. So we need to move the arrow this way. Pretty much the end of the arrow is supposed to well, point at the course that we want to take. Okay, and we might need some more anti-icing. Let me just take a look. 0, yeah, so let's get propeller de-icing in addition to what we get. And in this case I think I can close the cowl flaps. It's like a lot of moisture and it's cold. And we can reduce the power a little bit. And also the propellers. I actually have them bound to a new function on my joystick that I will talk about in a second. But sadly the function doesn't fully work. Let me just use it now. They are not even, as you can see. Now this will be one of the downsides I will discuss in a second. So let's go to 24. 24 RPM. Nice, and we can do prop sync now. Okay, some nice cloud surfing. We can actually take an outside view. It's a very loud plane. We can reduce the speed of the camera for some more cinematic shots. So actually the exterior sound of the engines is one of my least favorite parts about the plane. It's for sure authentic, I would say, because it was done by Boris and it's of high quality. I just subjectively don't really like it. So, for example, I much prefer the outside sounds of the Commander or of the Milvis Cessna that I was using the last time. For me, this is a little bit too high-pitched and like maybe irritating. That saying, I mean, it's well made. Let's go back to the cockpit. I think 9,000 should be enough. Now I'm starting to be concerned, obviously. Oh, now we lost the NDB. Okay. So normally this works much better, but normally I'm not wasting so much time on talking, right? So now let's just move on the curse, and we will be catching the VOR here, which should have a range of around 100 nautical miles from what I remember when we were leaving. So 115.2. 115.2, so just say 115.2, and when we will be around 100 miles away, this should wake up pretty much. Okay, so let's talk about the tour then. So I'm flying it on FS Economy, which is also generating like a plan like this one. Sadly, this line that you can see here is like an FS Economy bug. So I just wanted to show it to you, but I have removed it pretty much by hand using paint. So this way you can see it better. So we have started at Kiruna, then went down over Europe, and I have to say I have like catch the best shots pretty much. Like now, after all of those updates to the terrain and stuff, Europe is really, really beautiful. So here we got lots and lots of icing in the north of Europe. And the problem in the north of Europe was that many NDBs and VORs were not working correctly. They were already decommissioned, and this is something that we will repeat in other northern countries. I guess it's just that it's probably more costly to maintain it in those rugged, like northern countries than it is in other ones. So a lot of stuff was not working here. VORs were either not working at all, or they were not only giving DME guidance, so only the range without the deviation information. But it wasn't that bad. I still was able to find some that were allowing me to navigate. And this is something that I can say already now. You still can totally do like a world tour using only radio navigation. So it's not the first one that I have done, and it's not getting that much more difficult with every year, at least for now. So it's totally possible, and I have done it here. And this is actually one of the worst parts that we are doing now, because we won't be having any signal other than the NDB, which isn't giving you deviation information, the one where we have left, for like 50, 60, 17 miles. So this is not something that happens often during the world tour. Okay, so let's proceed. So Gibraltar was just beautiful. Then in Africa, I was kind of surprised, because after the icing, like very heavy icing and very low temperatures, I was hoping if I would cross the Sahara, I would experience this plane during very hot weather and like see, oh now it's getting too hot if we are talking about being, so let me just read this one. So I was hoping it would be very hot over the Sahara, but actually I didn't calculate in that Sahara is also on the northern hemisphere. So if it was winter in Europe, it was also winter over the Sahara, and it was actually kind of cold. So I was like checking some news from those like African countries, and there was even like a night where they had snow and stuff. So it wasn't until here that I have really experienced this really hot weather that made those like takeoffs much longer, and that you had to take into consideration, and that made me using the air conditioning for the first time with all of those possible failures. So here I had over the Congo, I think. I'm not sure anymore. It was like in one of the videos. I have the first failure, and this was a tank leak, a fuel tank leak. I'm not sure which one it was anymore, but it was the worst possible moment, because it was like over the jungle. There was no good airport with radio navigation. There was one very short strip in the mountains nearby, but with no radio navigation help, and it was very cloudy, so it would be very dangerous. Luckily, I could switch like both engines to the tank that was left, and I was still able to finish the flight. So this was the first one. Let me just check it. Okay, so when I was flying to the Middle East here, there was actually the war that is still ongoing. And I decided to not fly through an active war zone. So this is something that I'm doing during doing those tours. If there is like an area where it would be very unrealistic to fly through, I'm not doing it most of the time. So I was pretty much stranded here for around 3 weeks. And at the same time, FS Economy decided to give me like a random maintenance bill, which they do sometimes. So I decided, well, for role-playing purposes, maybe it was damaged during one of the bombings, because actually the airport where I had the plane was hit by one of those attacks. So I decided it might need some repairs. Let me change the view so it will be not only me talking. Let's reduce the volume. Okay, so I waited those 3 weeks, and then there was a ceasefire here, and I continued. I was really hyped for India, because on my last flights I haven't really spent much time there. But sadly, it was like this milky fog absolutely everywhere. It started kind of in the noon and then was continuing until it was dark. So you couldn't see most of the terrain, most of the cities, which was kind of sad. And here I actually, let's change the view. Here I actually got the second failure, which was this ADF, oops, let me just show you this ADF receiver. And this was exactly at the moment when I was tracing an NDB. That was the only radio navigation aid like in the vicinity pretty much. So once again, worst possible moment, okay? Let's go back, take a look like this, and let's continue. So the Himalayas were just great, amazing. And I also visited like Kathmandu, and I have recorded it. This is one of the most fun flights. There was also a great custom airport that I have showcased, and I can recommend it to you. And here I had a failure during the night. It was the middle of the night, and suddenly all of the lights on the instruments failed. So that's again, worst possible time. So I actually turned on those passenger lights here in the back to also illuminate something like in the front. Because there was some strong lights here, I think, but they were too strong. But the sheen from those ones here was actually perfect to be able to see something. Let me check my list. Okay. I just need to remember where stuff happened. Okay, so here we went over Japan, which was interesting because there are not that many radio navigation aids, but Japan is just like beautiful after the changes to the terrain after the world update. It's one of my favorite places to fly. I also wanted to visit Tsushima, which is like an island very known from a very popular game. And I landed at Tsushima, which had like a very complicated approach from what I remember. It was like getting dark, a lot of fog and stuff. But suddenly in the morning when I started, it was like fog anywhere. And this continued over most of the time crossing the Japanese islands. But sometimes the fog made it really magical, and sometimes you could still see something. So it wasn't that bad, but for sure cool. Here we have landed on the Russian Kamchatka. There are lots and lots of volcanoes here. It's like a pretty impressive terrain. I think it's not legal to land there, like from people outside of Russia. You need a lot of permissions and stuff, especially now with the war like going on. But there is no other way. If you need to use radio navigation aids, you have to do it over Kamchatka pretty much. And if you don't have like super long range. And over Kamchatka after the takeoff, despite doing the standard magneto check, I didn't catch that one magneto was off, or maybe it failed immediately during the takeoff, and I had to circle back and like land with one engine giving much less power pretty much. So this was the next failure. Let me just open my file. Okay, so this passage here, so like this Alaskan Peninsula, also one of my favorite places to fly. It's just beautiful, magical, and very, very demanding because the weather can change pretty much in minutes with storm. So thankfully, nothing bad happened. For example, when I was doing the tour with the Milwitz Cessna, I got into very heavy icing and got like an icing system failure, which was fine. But here, nothing bad happened. I guess we can just move to the other side. What happened was in Washington State, so pretty much here. I did take off, and there was like an ominous-looking cloud above the airport, but there was like nothing in the forecast. And like when I took off, I looked at the weather radar and it didn't say that it is dangerous. Actually, it was. I pretty much only scraped the side of it and totally lost control of the plane. So this is pretty much probably the most dangerous situation during the flight because we got almost flipped. So this is interesting because normally the storms in MSFS are not so strong. And like when I checked, the breaker for the weather radar was really popped. So once again, worst possible moment for the failure. This plane really hates me. Or maybe it's like programmed in by Nick that hates me. I don't know. So, then we went over the border of the US and Canada. There was on Sky Vector a lot of fire alerts. So there was a lot of fire brigades working here. And a lot of the airspace was closed. So I kind of also flew like zigzagging. And in general, just so you know, no, actually, this is the wrong map. So let me get the filtered one. Or did I close it already? Okay, so we will use this one. So this is the right path here. So I kind of dodged all of the areas where they were extinguishing those fires. And here I got my second leak, fuel tank leak. Actually over Canada, where there was also not so many airports, but it wasn't so bad. So then I crossed to Greenland, and I'm in general crossing it often, like doing FS economy jobs and stuff. But sadly, they are closing the airport here that I was always using and moving it more to this shore where they are opening a new airport. And this new airport doesn't have so convenient radio navigation aids. So it was more complicated for me. And also many of the ones that I wanted to use to land at the old airport were no longer active. So I was very lucky that I had good weather here, because otherwise I would have probably to go back and try to, figure something out. Going to Iceland was fun. I just loved this Reykjavik airport. I think this is one of the most fun payware sceneries, because you're paying for one airport and getting two. You are getting this big international airport in Keflavik, and also one airport in Reykjavik. One airport in Reykjavik in the city itself, and this one is the most fun one. Let me maybe change the view. This will be the most talking I have done on this channel. Maybe it will be interesting to somebody. Either way, I will, like always, do chapters in this video, so you will be able to jump ahead if you are not interested in the world tour, pretty much. And me mumbling on about it. Okay. I think this is a nice view. Let me see. Okay, so Iceland. Actually, once I took off from Iceland, I got the next failure, and this was the cockpit heating failure. And I was like, well, okay, that's nothing bad, right? Until I noticed, maybe let me go inside, until I noticed that the temperature inside dropped to minus 27 degrees Celsius. And I realized this is probably not safe for my pilot. So I had to reduce the altitude a lot to go into warmer air. But at the same time, the radio navigation aids are harder to pick up from like low altitude. So it was a problem finding my way to the Shetlands and to the Faroe Islands. Faroe Islands. But in the end, I pretty much made it. Let me check my list of failures. Was there anything else? No. So it was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 failures, which I think is just perfect for like 150 hours of flying. And we can also take a look here. I have it set to 5 times. And this is the result that I got. So I think it's perfect. It doesn't happen too often. And at the same time, you will still experience something. Oh, we are pretty much on the radial, more or less. Nice. 90 miles up. So let me tell you about my future plans, maybe. Sorry, I just have so much stuff open. Maybe before we go over to the next world tour, I will talk about the joysticks, just to change the topic a little bit. So let me just show you what I had and what I have now, and I will share my opinion. Actually, we can lean the engine a little bit. Okay, let's do reach of peak. Let's go down, not so much because we are not that high. Let's find the peak. So as I understand, this will get the same fixes that the Commander has in future. So it should actually not tell you its peak EGT. I hope I will find it. It should be richest, I guess, if you are like in reach of peak mode. And we will want to go to minus 50. Okay. Yep, should be more or less fine, and we are saving some fuel. Let's click no fuel tank leaks. Okay, that's nice. And I could normally use nav mode to go along the radial, but I have the bug that is disconnecting it from time to time, which is really sad for a world tour that you're doing with radio navigation only. Very milky clouds here. Okay, let's do an outside view. Maybe you can see anything? No. Okay. So let me maybe get a view like this one. Okay. And let me show you the joysticks. And I will just talk about them a little bit. So this is the one that I always had, VKB, probably for 7 years, and it was just great. That's saying it got like jittery in the end, both the thrust axis here and like also steering. So I had to get something new because it was not only annoying for me, but it was also like vibrating all of the time on the videos that I was recording to you, which is not optimal, right? So I got once again one from VKB because I was very happy with this one that you can no longer get, as far as I know. And this is really expensive in Europe. I'm not sure if I have paid so much for like gaming hardware, simulation hardware before, so it was kind of painful. I got the one with the standard grip. This one is the one with the premium grip. And I think it's enough for me, but I will talk about it in a second. Let me go inside, so it's like too loud for me. And you can get another view. Just not to make it too boring visually. Let me get back to the joysticks then. Okay, so my first problem after buying it is that in this one the thrust slider was on the side, which is like so much more convenient to use, and it's much easier to take the hand away if you need it. Like here you change the thrust and then you can quickly move the hand away to your keyboard, for example. Here it's not possible. You're pretty much almost crossing your hands, one you have here and the second one you have here. So it's much less convenient, but I think it's still okay-ish. I had to move it around a little bit on my desk. This was fine. This one is mostly for flaps. It's pretty much one up, one down. They work like buttons, which is, I had them here, so this is the same. This was the biggest disappointment because I was thinking this is an axis, and I could just bind it to the propeller or the mixture. But sadly, this is what is called an encoder, and this is also kind of, if you move it up, it gives a single signal up, and if you move it down, it gives a signal down, which is pretty much the same as pressing buttons. So people use it for heading, for the heading back, for example. I tried to use it for the propellers, but you could see what has happened. They were not synchronized when moving. So this is not what I want, pretty much. So I'm still trying to find like a good use for it. It works great in single engine aircraft, but I'm not flying that many of them, so kind of meh. When it comes to the grip, it's very convenient. You can change this one depending on the size of your hand. This was fine. trimming is really cool. There is one thing that's not shown here, and this is this like fire button in the front, so pretty much the same as this one. And I really like it in this one because it's a 2 stages button. So I pretty much, the normal stage for me is disengaging autopilot before the landing, and the second stage while pressing it in more is also disengaging the yaw damper, which is something that I'm either always forgetting or killing myself because I'm looking for the button on short final to find it and click it, which especially during turbulence, it's not so easy. So now I have it in the same button. If I just want to disable the autopilot, it's one click, right? And if I also want to get rid of the yaw damper, it's like clicking the same button deeper. So this is great. The main selling point of this one is the sensor and the gimbal, because both of them have those like quality sensors, those whole sensors that are contactless and stuff. So the sensor in this one was also great. But what was supposed to be better in this one is the gimbal. So pretty much the axis that this is mounted on. So this one has like a normal ball and cap gimbal. So the same that you get in the cheapest joysticks, like just the joystick moving around on a ball. And this one has this like more complicated pincer design where it's like 2 separate mechanisms for the axis, and it should be better. And it is much more precise, but you can kind of feel when you are changing the axis. So as long as you're only moving forwards and backwards or like left and right, it's fine. But if you need to move it to the corner, so you use both axes, I'm not sure about the plural, then you can feel the mechanism. So in the beginning, I really disliked it because the resolution of the sensor was great, much better than this one, but you could feel the mechanisms, especially if you needed input in both of those axes. That saying, I exchanged the springs to the weakest ones, pretty much softest ones, and also like minimized dampening effect. And now it's much better. Maybe it's also something that was the case because the joystick was new, pretty much. Okay, and yeah, and now I really like it. I do appreciate that I have more of those trim heads. So this one I'm using for trimming. This one I have the rudder trim here. And this one I'm using to look around, but it's only in 4 directions. The more expensive version allows you to move in any directions that you want, because then it's like an analog joystick pretty much. For me, it's just 4 saved views, which most of the time is also sufficient for me. So in general, I'm happy that I have made the change. I still think it's like very expensive, especially in Europe. From what I know, it's much cheaper in the United States for some reason. And in the beginning, I really disliked it because pretty much every plane was feeling like the joystick, right? You couldn't feel any differences in the plane itself because the mechanism was so like characteristic. Every movement you could feel it moving around, that I didn't really concentrate on feeling the plane. But maybe this is something that is expected. I have used this for many years and I only know planes from the perspective of using this one. So this is something that like immediately changed and I didn't like it at all. Now it's much better and I appreciate the much higher resolution of the sensor, especially like for hand flying. It's just great. Although to some degree, I still think that this is better at this ball and cap primitive design to really communicate like the real feeling of the airplane. In this one, I'm still feeling the joystick much more than I felt in this one. And not always feeling the plane through it, but maybe with usage, if I move it like 1,000 times, this will go away. So, in general, better, but there are some things that I liked better in the old one. As I said, the controls on the side are much more convenient for me, and also like this moving around on the ball felt better in some planes for me, even if it was like jittery and not so precise. And like the top head switches are just great. I can bind a lot of additional stuff. Okay, let me see at the range that we have here. 60, so... Oh, and this is what has happened. So I have tuned in the nav mode. It moved to intercept, but then disconnected suddenly. And we ended up totally not on the radial that we wanted. Sadly, Sim Update 6 was supposed to fix some stuff about VORs, but this is something that was still not fixed, at least for me. On the Just Flight forums, there is a very long topic with people having this problem, and we are still not sure what is causing it. So, not everybody has this problem, but especially for radio navigation flying, this is super annoying. I'm still not sure what is causing it. Either way, I think we can jump ahead because I was talking for a very long time, probably bored you all. So I will jump to the approach. And then once we will be landing, I will talk about, after the landing, I will talk about my future plans. So then for people interested, they will be able to stay. And the rest will just enjoy a landing that I hope will be nice and safe. But we can never be sure. Okay, so thank you, and I will jump ahead. Bye-bye. Hey guys, and welcome back. We will slowly brief the approach, so let me just go inside. I changed to the 2.7 radial, and I will show you why. So now it's loading. Okay. So we are coming from here, we will be landing in Kiruna, the wind is 360, so kind of from here, so we will be landing from the south. And we will be just switching to, well, a different radial pretty much to catch the runway. Here you can see it. As we will be landing on 03, there is not much choice for people without GPS. So normally we would be flying this loop, going over the VOR and then turning back, here doing the loop and then arriving here. But as we have good visibility, I hope, we will just be going, we have changed to this radial and we'll be just going directly in. Let's just say that the tower has allowed us. Sorry, let me show you again. So we'll be pretty much arriving here, which is why I have already used this altitude restriction here, and we should be at 10,000 here. Sorry, we should be at 10 DME. From the VOR, we should be at 3,800. We can already get the minimums, so in our case it's a radio altimeter, so we'll be using decision height, so 561. Let's get this in. So, somewhere here. And we can slowly descend, so let's just arm this one. Let's go here. Seems like there should be some visibility. And we'll just go straight into the runway if everything will work out. As we are nearing the airport, we can get the lights that we will need. We can already get the landing configuration here. We can get rid of prop sync. It's still around 0 degrees, so I will keep the anti-icing. Everything seems to work. So one nice thing is that if there is anything wrong with any of the engines, then you will see those lights here, which I really appreciate because it's really easy to spot if you're flying for many hours and reading a book and suddenly something wrong happens and you will see the lights here. So this is really nice on display. And we are going straight in. As I said, I would use nav, but sadly for me, sometimes it disconnects and then it's even worse than using heading. So we will be using heading. Let me see if there's anything. We can go full mixture pretty much for the descent. And the cow flaps stay like this one, stay closed because it's cold. And there's actually a nice function for people that are afraid of shock cooling. From what I know, now I pressed too much, so one second. So apparently this is showing you how fast the cylinders are cooling. That's like I'm not sure how to read it, because somewhere I read that if it will be -20, you have to watch out. I never had -20, so I'm not sure. Is -2 -20? I was trying to find like the manual for it, and I found a lot of discussions, and I'm not sure. So if you know it, let me know, because it's like really handy, because then you don't need to watch out that much with like step descent and like not cooling it too much, right? Yay, visibility. So we are pretty close to Kiruna now. Let me see if we will make it, actually. QNH is 1013 for Kiruna, so it should be fine. We are at 7,000 and we need to go down to 4,000. And we still have 9. Let me just reduce it, just to be sure. And we can reduce the power a little bit. Okay, everything seems promising, no failures. Maybe we will be able to complete it without a crash. When it comes to the hops meters, sadly they are still not working for like a big chunk of the flight. It was not registering. For a time there was this like trick with after finishing the flight clicking restart instead of end flight, and it was saving then, but it still didn't save for some of my flights, so I'm not sure. But like calculating based on what FS Economy gave me, this should be 150 at least, and it seems to make sense. Let's get back on this. Yeah, also, will we make it? I guess I can just increase it, just to make sure. Let's say this is pretty safe, because we need to start descending at 7.6. I'm gonna just take a look. So we'll be probably descending here with 120, so we will need a descent speed of 600. I'm now reducing the speed, and for additional drag I can get full propellers, because I want for it to go down to 152, so I can just deploy the flaps safely. I can make it a little bit louder, so you can also enjoy the engine. It's another tip, because in the manual and in discussions they say you can scroll it. So for me it doesn't work. The legacy method, I have to find those 2 click spots and just click on them to make it, to make it louder or quieter. Okay, in transition, no failure, we have approach flaps. This is nice. Can I see it already? I can? I'm not sure, maybe I did something wrong, so we will see in a second. Okay, so we are at the right altitude and we are still more than 10 out, so this is fine, we have done everything correctly. I just love this turbo sound that you could hear for a second there. It's there. Okay, so we are fine. Okay, I can risk it and click nav. You will see if something happens. Let's say we are using a VOR approach. They are not as precise as ILS approaches. So if you are doing those VOR loops without an ILS, you will often not come at the exact right angle, and will just need to correct it a little bit. Okay, everything seems fine. Now we can open the flaps. So once we drop full flaps, we'll be flying with pretty high manifold pressure, probably. Don't want to overheat it. Actually, the only situation when I did... Oh, now we lost enough. Okay. So the only situations where I did almost overheat them was when climbing over the Himalayas, I think. Like at very high altitude. Okay, so we are at 10 at 3,800, and
The airport is at 1,500, so let me just get, because we will need to do it manually. I guess I can just do it like this. And here we are waiting for 760 ME to start our descent. Assuming that we will be having this speed, we will be having this vertical speed. So let me prepare. Just arm it. And let's move back to 120. You can see more and more whites in the puppy, so we are fine. Everything is configured here, so we can get this one back. Let's not get too slow. And engage. Nice. Everything is in the green. I'm starting worrying. Yeah, it's really an achievement if you do it after like so many hours. So many storms dodged, like very, very, well, almost unsafe crosswind landings, I would say. A lot of stuff has happened. Lots of icing and unexpected failures. Oh, I just accelerated, so let me check. For 140, this would be higher speed, so let's just correct for it and reduce the speed. This is what happens if you okay, we will be at 120, and exactly this is what I wanted to do. And let's observe if there will be no failure. Yeah, okay, 3 greens, nice. And we can also go last flaps. Let's observe if there will be no failure in transition. Oh, nice. And the final approach speed that I like to use is 100, with VR being around 90. I can just use the heading to move back on the right track. Yeah. And as we are at 100 now, we can reduce the descent speed. And we are kind of struggling with the wind, which should be fine. More, I think I can fly it by hand now. So we are close to the minimums. Look at the yellow light if we pass the minimums. Okay, my plane. Just get a feeling for it. Yeah, the story, yeah, continue because we had minimums. So the story of this like mining town here is also pretty interesting, because they were like digging so many tunnels and to get this iron out that they had to move the whole town because it wasn't safe anymore to live on top of it. Maybe I will get no turbulence. This will be something new. So the last weeks when I'm landing, every time I'm getting like very strong turbulence, pretty much. I'm very unlucky. I still need to get used to the new joystick, but I mean, you can feel that the quality of the sensor is totally different. But sometimes you also feel the mechanism, as I said. Let's get rid of the flaps, so we do have some wind. Okay, and we made it. The world tour is complete. Nice. Okay, we can move it to standby. Already clean up a little bit. We don't need those. And we'll try to take the same parking place that we started with. And when we started, once again, minus 23 degrees Celsius, and we needed those heaters to be able to start without like damaging the battery, I guess, and maybe even possibly the engines. I do remember I used a heater for a very long time because I was afraid to mess up the plane in the first flight. But this didn't happen. Okay, so let's just park here. We can get rid of the anti-icing. The heating can also already disable. Just so you see, FS Economy has registered this landing. So we are fine here, and we can... It's almost 20 degrees here, so we can listen to stuff. This one goes to off. Let's just lean for ground operation. Let's not turn off the engine by doing it. And we can get rid of headphones. And let me see, so heating is no longer needed. I don't need landing lights, I don't need strobe light. Whew. Okay, nice. Let's just park there, but I'm not sure if this will be this. I think this is this. So let's just continue. So let me talk about my future planes. So as before, I'm going through like my fleet and also planes that I could potentially buy to find something that will be perfect, because you really need to love the plane to spend so much time with it, and it needs to be kinda complicated, so there will be something to do. So as I said, in this one, even the heating and air conditioning is complicated, so pretty much every time something new happens. And I think in the end, I will probably choose the twin commanders from Black Square, because first they have 2 engines, which is important if I'm like flying with 5 times failures, and secondly, they seem complicated enough. They are supposed to be released, I think, in the next months, like close months, I would say, because from what I could see, the development is already pretty advanced. Okay. Another one that I was taking into consideration was the Phenom, and I actually done a test tour with the Phenom. I'll show you in a second. I will just break here. Okay. Nice. Let's get rid of the avionics. Everything is fine here. So I guess we can just turn alternators. Yes. No beacon, no battery. Open. great achievement. So this is how we have started it. I'm not sure what the view was anymore. Maybe like this, and we had the heater here. So either way, let me go to the map. So I was trying it with the Phenom because the Phenom has also like pretty advanced failure modeling and wear and tear. So even more than this one. I bought one in India and then like did this. So the benefit of using the Phenom is for sure that it's like 4 times faster. And I don't mean the speed, because it's not that much faster, but because it's faster enough, those legs are shorter, you're doing less preparation, less landings, and so on. So this one I have pretty much done in just a few days. Well, except for this loop here, just this like single line. But the problem was that I'm kind of doing the world tour to see something, and when I was, for example, crossing Africa in this one, it was just totally fascinating how the terrain changed, everything changed when crossing here. And when I was flying pretty much here, this could have been as well, I guess, the United States. So I was always flying above like 40,000 feet. So most of the time I just saw some clouds. I didn't see pretty much any differences in the African countries that I was crossing. The only thing that was changing was the color of the skin of my passengers, which was actually something that I didn't know. So maybe you also didn't know that in all of those planes that have this like standard 2024 passenger system, the skin of your passengers depends on like the country that you are flying over, like the area. And the more I was going into the middle of Africa, the more like black-skinned passengers I had, pretty much. So I'm playing this sim for a very long time, and this is the first time I've noticed it. So just an interesting fact. Yeah, while this was very fun and very quick to do, it didn't really feel like a world tour. So I think I would not take the Phenom. Also, I wasn't that happy with the failure system in the Phenom. I mean, like the long-term failure for 1 or 2 flights is like perfect. But I had those like random failures on, and they had a tendency to fail like in batches. So nothing happens for 1 flight, 2 flights, 3 flights, and then suddenly 3 things that are totally different and are not connected in the plane fail at the same time. And I did report it, but like Raul said, this is intended, and I can just lower the frequency. And yeah, it helped a little bit, but it still doesn't feel as good as the failure system of Black Square. The benefit of the Phenom is that it also has maintenance, so not only random failures. So it's wearing down with every flight hour, which is also pretty immersive. And this is something that I miss in Black Square planes. The only thing that is maintenance in Black Square planes is the oxygen, pretty much. Let me show you. So this one, you have to remember to replenish it after using it between the flights, and this is the only thing. When it comes to the engine, pretty much this wear that you can see here is only because I was doing replays after one of the flights, and because it was like going forward, back forward for the recording, it did damage itself pretty much. But when I was flying it, it was always like 100%. So there is not even anywhere in the engine. So maybe someday we will see. For now, we at least have like state saving in the newer Black Square planes. So this is also great. So this was the Phenom. Another one that I was considering was the Kaus Diamond 42, which I just love flying. It's such a good like hand flying feeling. The views are insane, the sounds are insane, and it does have failures. In fact, I think 190 failures, so like very advanced, but it doesn't have pretty much any other functions. There is no like walk around functionality. The heating doesn't work. I mean, you can use it, but nothing happens. So there's nothing to play around, to click during all of those hours. And I was afraid this would be like too boring, simply. So from what I know, Chaos is working on an update, 2024 version, native one, that will get the walk around, so there will be a little bit more. but there's still like no ETA, no release date for it, and it might still not be enough because the Baron had just much more work, well, additional features around it that you could use. Yeah, and this pretty much leaves the twin commanders. Let me just show you what I actually mean. I was not interested in those planes before, but the more I think about them, the more I think they might be the perfect match. So in my case, I would just do a piston, but like turbo charged one, because there is also like a turbo prop one. But I just love leaning and all of the intricacies of piston engines, so I guess this one would be more interesting. And I really like the cockpit. Let me just show you with this overhead, a lot of stuff to click, a lot of stuff that can get damaged. Okay, so this is also important, and you will still be able to fly because it's like everything is duplicated because of the two engines. And I actually really like the cabin, so I think this might be the next around the world plane. I was waiting for the King Air that is supposed to also come from Black Square. But Nick said that he wants to make it like his big masterpiece, like the Starship before it. So it will take some time before it will be released. So for now we will have this one. I don't know, it looks very promising. Pretty much the only thing that I don't like is that there will be only a pressurized version. And with pressurized versions, I'm always like feeling bad when flying low, pretty much because there is no real life reason to fly low, like no economic reason and stuff if you have pressurization. Because, for example, in this one, it has oxygen, but it doesn't have pressurization. So I can always say, well, the passengers don't like having something in their noses or something, whatever, right? But there is like a reason to fly lower. But here, I don't know, it would just have to be my like head canon to sometimes or often fly low despite having pressurization in the plane. Yeah, and I was also considering going back to the Aerostar, but honestly, I really don't like that it doesn't have this altitude select mode, and it doesn't have vertical speed, so it's very annoying to fly those more complicated procedural approaches. It's just like a second where you are not paying attention and you can mess it up. And if I'm supposed to fly at like 150 hours, sometimes while being sleepy, sometimes while being annoyed and stuff, so I don't think I will be able to concentrate enough to really enjoy it. So I have ruled it out. That saying, Aerosoft said that they might consider doing like a turbocharged version that will have more features. So maybe it will have some additional avionics. I don't know. We will see. But this will probably not come like soon, so I will not use it. And one last option that I'm considering is the Milvis Cessna 3110 that I have already used for the World Tour, and actually is great because it not only have failures but also maintenance, wear and stuff. So Milvis is recreating it to a native 2024 plane that will be like fully priced, so I hope there will be a lot of changes. And if this would drop, I would totally take it like first day because I think it was like the perfect around the world plane, well, apart from this one, which I think is the second place. But I have no idea. I mean, Milvis is a very old company. They were also doing stuff in X-Plane, and I totally don't trust them. Like, I think they are very passionate about their work, but every one of their projects is just like totally chaotic for me. I would not be surprised if they like release the plane that I'm waiting for in like 5 years. So we will see. Yeah. For now, the Twin Commander that might be dropping in the next months is probably the one that I will choose, but I will see. Okay, so thank you very much, especially for people that were staying so long despite me only speaking to a static image. So very sorry for that. I know my other flights are different. And
And yeah, also the channel already has 1 year. I was informed by YouTube. So thank you very much, all of you guys that have watched, especially in the beginnings where it was not always perfect. And even now, I'm trying to prepare for every one of my flights, trying to like read the manuals, discussions and stuff, but sometimes it's just too much for my brain and I do tend to do those silly mistakes. So thank you that you stayed on despite them, and I hope that it will be only better in future. And with this video, that's probably the most boring video ever. I thank you very much for watching and see you in future GA flying videos. Thank you, bye bye.